Good evening, you're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Turkish armoured vehicles roll into northwestern Syria to implement de-escalation points. The US president is to announce his country's strategy towards the nuclear agreement with Iran, as China renews its call to preserve the agreement. And Omani British Friendship Association marks its 41st anniversary. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has sent a cable of condolences to His Excellency President Emomali Rahmon of Tajikistan on the death of his brother Nur Eldin Rahmon. His Highness Saeed Fahad bin Mahmoud Al Sayed, Chairman of the Supreme Committee of the Royal Opera House, has received in the Opera House the directors of the Red Army Choir, the Alexandrov Ensemble, and the maestro of the ensemble in the Russian Federation. His Highness thanked the official choir of the Russian forces for their participation in the program of the Royal Opera House, which was established by the virtue of His Majesty the Sultan's wise vision to spread culture, science, arts, and cultural communication with various countries of the world. From their side, the directors, the maestro, and the members of the Russian choir expressed delight to present their artistic performances in the Sultanate, thanks to the attention and appreciation that they were accorded. It's worth mentioning that the Russian choir was established in 1928 and gained worldwide recognition in addition to a number of awards at international levels. Turkish armoured vehicles rolled into northwestern Syria to implement a de-escalation agreement in a province dominated by al-Qaeda-linked militants. Turkey's military said today that troops taking part in efforts to form de-escalation zones began late yesterday in an operation to create observation points in Idlib. Turkey's Hurriyet newspaper said around 30 armoured vehicles and more than 100 troops from commando and special forces units were taking part in the operation, saying that more troop movement was expected in the coming days. Last week, Turkey said it was carrying out a military operation in Idlib and surrounding areas as part of a deal it reached with Russia and Iran last month to enforce a de-escalation zone in northwest Syria. President Donald Trump will say today the Iran nuclear deal is no longer in U.S. national security interests, but he won't withdraw from the landmark 2015 accord or immediately reimpose sanctions against Tehran. Trump's speech from the White House will outline specific faults he finds in the pact, but will also focus on an array of Iran's troubling non-nuclear activities. Those include Tehran's ballistic missile program, support for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Lebanon's Hezbollah movement, and other groups that destabilize the region, including in Yemen. Under U.S. law, Trump faces a Sunday deadline to notify Congress whether Iran is complying with the accord that was negotiated over 18 months by the Obama administration. It determines and remains a national security priority. The Iranian parliament speaker said any U.S. move against a nuclear deal with Iran will be an insult to the United Nations. Ali Larijani spoke on a visit to Russia today, hours before President Donald Trump delivers a speech expected to contain harsh criticism of the 2015 accord and Iran's activity that troubled Washington and its allies. The agreement offered Iran relief from crippling economic sanctions in exchange for strict limits on its nuclear program. It involved a coalition of powers including the US, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, and China. Larijani said the accord had received a UN blessing, so any move to spike it would represent an insult to the UN. He added that any revision of the deal would allow Iran to take its own action. The Director General of UNESCO expressed deep regret at the US government's decision to pull out of the United Nations Cultural Agency because of what's seen as long-standing anti-Israel bias. Irania Bokova defended the reputation of the UN educational, scientific, and cultural organization, best known for its World Heritage Program, to protect cultural sites and traditions. by noting its efforts to support Holocaust education and fighting anti-Semitism. She also pointed out that the Statue of Liberty was among the many World Heritage Sites protected by the UN agency. UNESCO also works to improve education for girls in poor countries and in scientific fields and to defend media freedom, among other activities. The US stopped funding UNESCO after it voted to include Palestine as a member in 2011, but the State Department has maintained a UNESCO office and sought to weigh on policies behind the scenes. The US now owes about $550 million in back payments. The communities of Northern California were preparing for another day under siege today, despite being driven to exhaustion by evacuations, destruction, and danger aimed the deadliest week of wildfires the state has ever seen. The death toll has climbed to an unprecedented 31 and was expected to keep rising. Individual fires, including the Oakland Hills blaze of 1991, had killed more people than any of the other current fires, but no collection of simultaneous fires in California has ever led to so many deaths. Real recovery would have to wait for firefighters to bring under control the 21 wildfires, spanning more than 777 square kilometers. Most were less than 10% contained. New evacuations were still being ordered for fires that broke out on Sunday night. Since igniting its spots across 8 counties, fires have transformed many neighborhoods into wastelands. At least 3,500 homes and businesses have been destroyed, and an estimated 225,000 people forced to flee. Still to come in our news bulletin. Young music artists in Nigeria are still taking inspiration from the king of Afro dance, Fela Kuti, who died 20 years ago. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. In London, Omani British Friendship Association celebrated the 41st anniversary since its establishment. The association works on strengthening communication and cooperation between both countries to introduce the history of relations and support economic and cultural cooperation. The celebration was attended by His Excellency Syed Badr bin Hamid Al Busaidi, Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who stressed that the relations between both countries are based on historical and military relations, and the Sultanate seeks to increase the number of British friends. He also praised the British education system. Officials from both countries stressed their desire to strengthen the relations in various fields and to uplift them into advanced levels. The Ministry of Tourism launched a public competition to establish a touristic landmark similar to old Omani markets and traditional villages. The landmark included restaurants, coffee shops, and commercial shops. The ministry allocated the project site at the beach of the Walaya of Al Sib, which has an area of 100,000 square meters. The allocation will be through usufruct system, and it is renewable every 5 years. The ministry will award the winning investor the right to connect the beach by setting up a walkway towards the sea with integrated services. Oman oil price December delivery reached $55.51 per barrel. According to Dubai Mercantile Exchange, Oman oil price rose by 52% compared to yesterday's price, which was $54.99. The average price of Oman oil November delivery reached $54.02 per barrel, thus $3.60 higher than the price of October delivery. Within the government's efforts for electronic transmission, the Ministry of Manpower activated the service of registering new worker data at the ministry's website. The service will enable the entrepreneurs and individuals to register laborers' data through the ministry's website or via Sanad offices, where users can enter through the unified portal service to choose from the required services by entering their license number. Nigerian musical legend Fela Kuti died 20 years ago, But his popularity and reputation continue to inspire musicians at home and around the world. Here is the report.
Rising Nigerian pop star Adekunle Gold is recording his second album. Among his inspirations are Ghanaian dance music and Indian harmonies, but above all, the sounds of Nigeria's legendary king of Afrobeat, Fela Kuti.
Fela was never afraid. Fela was fearless, and then I feel like Fela is definitely beyond the musician. Fela is activism himself. It's just everything, you know. Fela could have been the president, you know.
Fela, as he's known to fans, died 20 years ago. The maverick performer found fame in Africa in the 1970s and was a thorn in the side of the country's successive military dictatorships. He used music to protest against the corrupt elite and people's everyday struggles, and was thrown into jail several times for speaking out. For some, that integrity and passion is missing in musicians today.
They talk too much about femininity, the sensuality of women. They talk about butts, they talk about boobs, they talk about all sorts of sexuality of women. That's what they talk about now.
Yet, though the subject matter may have changed, young artists are still taking inspiration from Fela. 23-year-old music producer Chris Beats calls himself the king of Afro dance, the Nigerian music that has got millions dancing across Africa and the world. For him, rhythm is the most important thing, and that rhythm is Fela Kuti.
Afrobeat is what I grew up listening to, so there's no how. Even if I want to make EDM, I will still think Afrobeat. Even if I want to make hip-hop, I will still think Afrobeat, because Afrobeat is who I am, you understand? So you can't take that factor off Chris Beat. So if I'm doing anything, I will still think it's like, okay, this is where I'm from. So it's always Afrobeat.
Every year, the Felabration Music Festival celebrates Fela Kuti's life and work with dozens of concerts in Lagos. 20 years after his death, organisers hope a new generation will discover his music and the political passions that inspired it.
Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning over the governorates of Sharqiya and Wusta and coastal areas of the Sea of Oman. Winds will be southerly to southeasterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 meter. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Turkish armored vehicles roll into northwestern Syria to implement de-escalation points. US President is to announce his country's strategy towards the nuclear agreement with Iran as China renews its call to preserve the agreement. And Omani British Friendship Association marks its 41st anniversary. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsrooms and the studio, it's good night.